All right, I have 86 solar panels total. It's 20 more or 22 more on the other side. I got all of those from Santan Solar, okay? I got this camper from Facebook Marketplace. All right, and here we go, all the meat and potatoes. All right, so, and this is a video on where to get components from. This is a good charger. They have one that's 100 amp, but it all depends on your budget. All right, so if you have a generator and you're trying to move, if you want to get completely off grid and like use a generator like I do, then get this. All right, I wouldn't suggest getting this charge controller. I would suggest getting an all-in-one inverter because it has a charge controller built into it. All right, so you don't have to get this specific brand. Eco-worthy, they make some good products. I probably would have gotten their inverters, but this company didn't exist when I started buying these inverters. So I bought two. After I bought the second one, that's when eco-worthy started popping up on the market. But I had already invested in these two, so I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and get two more of them. But if I were to start from scratch, I would get the eco-worthy versions of these. I would get the Doom foam batteries. I think these are the best bang for your buck, the cheapest right now. Now, I'm not sure, but just make sure they're lithium iron phosphate and make sure that they are 51.2 volts. I wouldn't suggest buying them single like this, one at a time. Now, if you can't afford to just buy 4 of these and put them in series like that, black to red, black to red, black to red, negative to positive. That's how I did that. And then I did that until I got it all the way up to 51.2 volts. So me doing it this way, I actually saved about $600 or $700 rather than me just buying a bunch of these to get the same amount of energy, if that makes any sense. My battery cables came from Home Depot. This thing came from Amazon. The bus bars, this is where all of your batteries connect to. I got these bus bars from signaturesolar.com. Signature Solar is like the king of the South. They're really like the king of like solar products, in my opinion. If you're like on a budget and you can't really, this is my flamethrower, let me move that out the way. But if you can't really like afford to just go out and ball out on a bunch of stuff, then Signature Solar is really where it's at. Now, they sell solar panels, but they don't sell used solar panels anymore. So I don't get my solar panels from them. This thing is the exact same as these, but I paid $300, I think it was like $380 for this one. These are like almost $700 a piece. That's why I say, when it comes to your all-in-one inverter, shop around, get the best deal you can get. No, don't necessarily go with EG4, because eco-worthy does make some pretty quality stuff. That's what I would go with. But so that's the inverters. I showed you about the batteries, the solar panels, the wirings. Yeah, and for your solar panel cables, these are my solar panel cables right here. Amazon sells some, but to get the best bang for your buck, go to Signature Solar. And if you can, get the 8-gauge solar cables. 10 gauge is like the bare minimum you should be getting. Don't get anything higher than 10 gauge. But I like to go with 8 gauge because it can you can stretch it out a little bit more and get the solar panels further away if you need that. Or if not, then you can just, at least at the bare minimum, you could save money or at least save electricity with your wires not heating up as fast with the thicker cables. If I could go back on these, I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't buy none of these. I would buy this one, but I would only buy one of them. And the only reason I would do that is because if, let's say, when I first got into solar, we only had 3 inverters. Well, we only had 2 in the beginning, but we eventually got the third one like a month after we moved in. And we would max out our inverters too often, and it would just shut down the whole shut off everything. So in order for me to come out here and reset it, I would have to shut off all the batteries, shut off all the inverters. Well, first shut off the PV first, and then shut off the inverters and the batteries. And I had like a what do you call it? Yeah, that's it. I had a resistor set up, and I would have to like cut one battery on. I would have to like cut one battery on, and then hold the resistor to kind of feed it through. It was kind of a weird setup, but instead of me having to do all that extra stuff, if I ever was to have problems, it's really for my wife, because if it wasn't for her and I was just single, then I would have just kept what I had. But if you're married and you're away from home and your stuff ever goes down, then you just want to make it easier for your spouse as possible if she knows nothing about this. So now, if everything goes off, then I'll just tell her to come out here. She hits the circuit breakers first, then she cuts off all the inverters, then she cuts off all the batteries. And then in order for her to restart the system, she cuts this battery on because it has a built-in resistor in it. So it's going to feed a little power into the inverters, and then you'll be able to power all the batteries and flip them all on. If you don't do that, then your inverter, if you just hook the inverter straight up to the battery, it might not come on, because sometimes they need to have like a little bitty power fed to them first, and then you can flip it and let it get all of it. That's why I would say get one of these batteries, because it'll automatically do that. So you could just cut that one battery on first, wait like 10 seconds, and then I cut all the rest of my batteries on. I think I pretty much covered everything though. I would not build my own batteries anymore, because this is just too much stuff to stress about. Like, yeah, you got to worry about each terminal. I actually dropped a wrench one time on there and had a short circuit, and it almost burned down the damn house. That's why I moved everything into the camper, because I didn't want to risk burning down my house anymore. If I do have a fire, it's at least going to be contained within the camper. I'll lose a lot, but I won't lose everything. You know what I'm saying? So I'm eventually going to be phasing all of these things out. I will keep the BMSs. Another thing I didn't like about these batteries is when I first got them, they didn't have low temp protection. So I actually had to take the BMS out of these and replace them with JBD BMSs. So these are actually Bluetooth now, but I wouldn't waste my time on those server rack batteries. Only server rack battery I would ever buy is that one, and I would only get one. I would never buy another one. So I covered that. Oh, and this transformer. The reason I do have a transformer is because all of these are in single phase, which means it's only 120. And I have no 240 volt running to my house right now. So this is what that's going to be for. I could pair them up and have these two on one leg and these two on one leg, but then I would have to make sure that I keep the legs balanced. And instead of me having to worry about all that stuff, I just have them all sharing the load equally. And this is going to do all the switching and having to do all of the balance, and it can do it, because that's 100 amp. So that's why I chose what I chose, and this is how I would suggest people, as far as my recommendations. I'm not an expert, but I have been living off grid for 3 years now, and I've been into solar and studying solar for about 5 years now.